Hi, it's Gene from Mavstar. I'm just watching those two Typhoon Eurofighters here, just about 50 miles off the coast of Cyprus. Looks like one of them's just landed, but they're accompanied with an air refueler, another RAF aircraft, and we can see where they've been flying by this tracking blue line here. So it looks like they're going up and down the coast of Lebanon. Maybe they expect, maybe Lebanon, to fire more missiles into Israel. Yeah, I think we all know this is going to happen at some point as well, don't we? Because, let's face it now. Within 5 months or less, Israel have fired missiles into Iran, into Syria, into Lebanon, and they've also been firing missiles to and from, backwards and forwards, to the Houthis. So, the amount of fronts at the moment that Israel are fighting on is unique, to say the least. I've never known it, ever. And, like I say, I'm just intrigued to watch, and wonder what the RAF are actually doing, just flying up and down the coastline of Lebanon like this. So is it because they want to? They're returning back to the RAF base now in Cyprus. You can see that because if you look at the altitude, it's decreasing on all three of those aircraft. In fact, I believe one might have already landed because it's no longer on show. And you can see the barometric altitude here at the bottom here. It's at 9,000 feet at the moment. You can watch it pretty much go down to a couple of thousand feet and then it disappears off. But they don't always fly with the transponders on the Typhoons, I've noticed. Or if they do, it's only when they're coming into land and taking off and getting, probably about 300 miles off the coast of Cyprus, and then they just disappear off flight radar 24 completely. But yeah, if you're intrigued yourself, that's what the RAF Tornadoes look like when they're being displayed. More of a delta wing than other aircraft that you can look on, but you can always spot them by just calling up their registration. They always start, the British Royal Air Force always starts with a triple R at the beginning of it, or most of the times it does. But I've found some other interesting aircraft on air. If you look, you can find all sorts of drones. There's usually always drones along the Turkish border with Syria. Bayraktars, I think they are. And is it the? Oh, I'm going to butcher the name now. Is it the Gonthorpe? Is it? Which is a very expensive drone that the Americans use, but it's got an ability, I think, to stay up in the air for about 32 hours at a ceiling of over 40,000 feet, which is a remarkable platform, and its radar capability is quite good on that as well. And I have seen that just doing its routes up and down, Lebanon as well over the last month. But if we look at the traffic over Iraq at the moment, there's not so much. Again, the numbers are reducing. And if we go back to when Iran had launched those 300 missiles and drones at Israel a few months ago, the airspace was pretty much cleared so that they could do that. I suppose it was to protect innocent aircraft off neighbouring countries like, Emirates, United Arab Emirates and other neighbouring countries of Iran. So I think there was a bit of courtesy extended there. But by all means, guys, I'm no military expert on this, but I do have, a keen interest in watching these planes and what sorts are being used and in what areas of the world they're being used. And obviously, with Israel now having a conflict with Lebanon, Iran, and Gaza, and then the Houthis, it's not looking good for Israel at the moment. Because it does look like they're getting spanked from north, south, and the east at the moment. So yeah, I think they've landed now. All those. Oh, the another typhoon's gone obviously back to the base now, and we can see the route. The air tanker has been accompanying those two tornadoes, obviously to refuel it and keep them in air for a sustained period of time. But if we look at the barometric pressure, we're at 5,000 feet now in altitude, so it looks like the the air refueler is also returning back to the RAF base in Cyprus. Yeah, just thought I'd share that with you. I mean, I find it interesting because if we do see, these aircraft clear the skies a bit more in Iraq, and we see more taking a longer route around this region, it could be that, there are going to be a series of missiles, and let's face it, Iran have promised a retaliation for killing those Hezbollah leaders, but I do know that there is a 5-day peace at the moment underway in Iran for the mourning of that recent Hezbollah leader that has been blown up in munitions being dumped on those facilities that he was in Beirut. So very interesting times, and there's a lot of reasons why we should be interested in what's going on in the Middle East, because how close could we be now to a nuclear war? I mean, would you agree with me that we're closer than the Cuban Missile Crisis at the moment, with what Russia's doing and threatening over NATO getting involved in supporting Ukraine with long-range missiles, and with what Israel's doing right now? Certainly, not on the best of terms with its neighbouring countries in the Middle East. How close are we to seeing a nuclear exchange? I mean, Israel have never admitted that they've got nuclear missiles, but they have said that under certain circumstances they would resort to the Samson plan, and that means that if they are defeated to a point, they will use nuclear missiles. If they've never admitted to having nuclear missiles, what nuclear missiles are they actually going to use? I think it's widely accepted that Israel do have nuclear weapons, although by refusing to admit it, it sort of like leaves it in a dark area. And I think the same is for Iran. I do believe that Iran now have enriched enough fissile material to possibly make 20 or 30 missiles, and it certainly wouldn't take 20 or 30 ICBMs or nuclear missiles to severely damage Israel's capability of functioning as a state. Just bizarre times, as a scientist, I was talking to a friend the other day about the 90 seconds to midnight atomic clock. I think it's even closer than that myself. I really do. We could see, a large scale advancement towards a nuclear war in the coming weeks. I really believe that. And, I think you guys would, agree with me on that. It's really dark time that we're in. As if there weren't enough things to worry about in this world, but then having to, divert your attentions to things like this is not really the best things to do, is it? But if you want to stay informed of what's going on, you've got to be, I suppose, ahead of the game. And by watching this flight radar 24, if we do start to see a clear up of those civilian aircrafts, I've got to say that I don't know whether it's because it's night time now. It's 11:30 here in the UK. I'm not quite sure what time it is in Iraq, but I'm not sure whether at certain times of the night they reduce the level of aircraft in the air, because this afternoon there was considerably more, I'd say 70% more aircraft flying that route from countries like Bahrain, Kuwait, going into the European regions north. I know Qantas use that route a lot. Emirates use that route a lot, as well as a lot of other commercial carriers of freight use that route. So, yeah, just thought I'd bring you another update on that, as it is looking like we could see some action over the next day or so with Iran and Israel again.